All right, everybody, welcome to another edition of the New Breed Podcast, not the world's first, not the world's only, but the world's best podcast concentrating on the topic of nu metal. I am your host, Jay Horsecow. Joined with me, I have the notorious TIM, Tim Anderson Jr. Tim, how's it going?
Good, man. How about you?
I am hanging in there, 3 beers deep and ready to party. And with us as a return guest, our on-again, off-again, regular celebrity guest, lead singer of the band Orthodox, and quickly become a good friend of ours, Adam Easterling. Adam, thanks for joining us again.
Thanks for having me back so quick. I feel like we were talking not even a month ago, so I'm happy to be back here. Usually, like, people are like, you hang out with someone, they're like, oh yeah, we got to hang out more often. You never get the call back. So I'm like, you guys are like, oh yeah, no, come back on. I'm like, yeah, friends.
Dude, we'll have you on whenever, man.
Yeah, whenever. Doors always open. So tonight's topic is one that's close to Adam. We are going to do a deep dive into the first 2 System of a Down albums. Tim has some strong feelings, so do Adam and myself. I will go out on a limb and say that I have listened to more System of a Down in the past 3 weeks than probably I have in the entirety of my life. And not to bury the lead, but I have to say that I genuinely developed an appreciation for the musicality of the band themselves. I always liked it, not with a capital L, and now I've really come to realize that there really is some musical brilliance on these things.
Hear that, Tim?
Yeah, I listened to it for the last 3 weeks as well, and that was the hardest 3 weeks of my life. So.
All right, Tim, why don't you start us off?
Man.
Let's do the background of the first album. You're usually good for those the tips and tricks and history.
All right, so the self-titled was released June 30th, 98. Recorded at Sound City Studios in The Mansion, which is in Van Nuys, California. And it came out on, which is surprising to me, American and Columbia. I didn't know it was on big labels like that. I was also surprised.
All of theirs came out on American, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. It was funny. It's weird to me, but I'll explain that in a second. I'm also surprised that Rick Rubin did it, but then I found out that he pretty much kind of found the band, I guess you could say.
Yeah, he was their rabbi. He shepherded their entire career. When I did some digging, he was the one that basically said, you guys are never going to be popular because nobody wants to see an Armenian nu metal band, but I dig it. Let's go with it. And here we are. They're blowing up and playing arenas. So they did something right.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Certified gold in 2000 and platinum in 2002. Also, the cover artwork is from a 1928 poster designed by visual artist John Hartfield. The text on the poster, it's a hand that has 5 fingers with these 5 grab the enemy. Oh, that's what he was saying about the picture. So it's basically some kind of political thing, I'm guessing.
Mm-hmm.
I think so, yeah.
All right. And
I actually didn't know that that's where that came from, so...
Yeah, it's here we go. And the album is also featured in the book 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die. So I heard it and I don't really have to hear it again. And critics have said that this was an excellent starting point for the most curious band in metal, which I would agree with. They're very strange, very curious to me. And that's about all I have written down for, because there wasn't too much of facts going on about this record. But other than that, I mean, I do want to ask this because I'm sure Adam knows. Weren't they called Soil before?
So the band, it's like this collective was not Soil, but members of were in a band named Soil, and then Soil, I think, was even still a thing, right? Like while System was making their demos, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
But by this point, Soil had disbanded. And there's a song on the record called Soil, which I think...
And then there was another popular band. There was another popular band not too long ago, Soil, wasn't there? Yeah. They were kind of nu metal-ish, right?
Yeah, they were...
Soil work?
No, there was
another band.
There was a Soil. They were at the ass end of like the 3rd generation nu metal. That was in the same genre, same vein as like... I think it was like American Head Charge and Union Underground. Like they were late nu metal.
Like a more radio-friendly nu metal.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So, Tim, I actually did some digging on this, and I'm really fascinated by, you brought up Rick Rubin. He literally shepherded this band's career. He liked the demo. He liked what he saw. He kept seeing them live, and then he finally said, "Okay, I can do a full length with you." And he has produced all of their albums. There was a quote at one point. I was doing some digging, and I think it actually references Chop Suey, and the chorus in Chop Suey, where he didn't understand what Serge was saying. And Rick Rubin's quote was, "I don't know what it means, but I know how it makes me feel." And when you think about a lot of the lyrics that Serge writes, right, and now Darren in their later catalog, they're very abstract, right, to the point where it's like, the fuck is this guy talking about? But they do elicit not a visceral response, but they do elicit some kind of emotional response, even if he's out there just rhyming words again. There's some stuff on Steal This Album where I was like, Clark Kent and Lois Lane and fighting crime. I think that was Boom. Was that Boom?
No, it's that is IEAI.
Yeah, which is actually a really good song. We'll get to that one. It's very like William S. Burroughs cut up Dadaist, like that sort of stuff. But it works for the music. Say what you will, it works for the music.
He's a goofy son of a bitch, man.
One of the other things I took away from this album was the guitar tracks. Every song was layered twice. So there's 2 tracks for every song, which is in contrast to Toxicity. In Toxicity, they had almost 12 tracks for every single song on that album. They recorded 12 guitar tracks. So that adds to the density and the layered. One of my notes that I took away here from this album is the whole thing sounds very heavy, but it's not overwhelming in the sense that it's exhausting, right? I mean, they do 13 songs on the self-titled. They do 14 on Aerials. They do 15 on the self-titled if you count the Japanese version with, Marmalade and the other song. And yet it's heavy, but it's hard, but it's not exhausting, right? Like shit like Dying Fetus. You get like 4 songs in, you're like, okay, I need a fucking time out because it's just too heavy. But this, it goes. What do you think, Adam?
I think that a lot of the reasons why it has such an impact is because you have, like, they do something that a lot of metal bands don't do. Like, you'll have a lot of metal bands of all different types of metal where they'll, tease something and then they'll tease like a breakdown or something of that nature. And eventually it comes back and it's really big. But like, System will literally just have like this one dynamic over here that's like a samba beat or just some wild guitar thing that's like fast and fat, like Sweet Pea, just to start it off. One of my favorite System of a Down songs starts off with Darren just running harmonics down the strings, and then it's just chaos and intensity the entire time. And then the heaviest part is literally like it just cuts and the bass comes in with the dun 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 dun.
Yep.
But then it goes right back to the same chaos after all that is done. It's just, I think the reason that it doesn't get so exhausting is because, as I said on the last time I was here, it's kind of unpredictable. Especially if you've never heard it, you don't, you just have totally different styles of music, almost forcibly being played together, but it somehow works just because of the execution.
You're right. It doesn't feel bolted together. It feels like everything flows with a purpose. So we'll start off with the first song of the album, Sweet Pea, 2 minutes, 31 seconds. The notes I have here is, the harmonics is the first thing that jumps out at you. The second thing that jumps out at me is the lyrics make absolutely no sense unless you're in Serge's head. The third thing that jumps out at me is this is one of the first new metal bands to actually use those death metal-ish growls. Like when Serge growls into the microphone. Up until this point, this is 98, right? It's all pretty much Korn and Limp Bizkit and DJs and we scratching. And you have these guys coming in with their Middle Eastern influences, right? Like some of the stuff sounds like it sounds like a mandolin, it sounds like a balalaika. And then he's in the background, it's like, oh shit, I gotta pay attention to this song.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that song is lyrically, it's like you said, there's no telling what it's actually about, but from my gathering, it's kind of just like it's supposed to be like the illusion of Christianity. It's kind of like what it sort of sounds like to me. Lie naked on the floor and let the Messiah come all through our soul. Then it says, die like a motherfucker over and over again.
Right.
And then it says the following of Christ, the following of Christ, the following of Christ, the following of Christ. So that's kind of what I've always taken from it. And even in the beginning, I think it says the enemy, her name is Jesus.
Yep. And they do have a lot of religious questioning in their lyrics. There's definitely the political bent. The Armenian genocide comes up in multiple albums and across multiple topics. And they're a political band without being so overtly preaching, right? There's a lot. They talk about in the Bush years and Desert Storm, and why do we always send the poor and that sort of stuff. So they do politics in a way that's not like, all right, get out of my fucking face. You hate George Bush, right? They do it in a way, like you said, Adam, it's inventive and it forces you to pay attention. And before you know it, you're going, did he just really say that, mandatory minimum sentencing doesn't work, right? Did I catch that right? Good stuff. What did you think, Tim? Because I know you're not a big fan. So this is a bit of a slog for you.
I actually think this is a decent track. Probably one of the better on the record. I just can't do his vocals, like the way he does them. But like I said before Adam came on, very talented band. The more I listen to it, I could see why you guys like this band a lot. They're very talented. I just don't like that Ace Ventura stuff, man. To me, it's just like I feel like Ace Ventura sings for this band.
By the way, Adam, Tim IM'd me that one day in the middle of a work day, and it ruined my work day. He's like, I'm like, Tim, I've listened to Toxicity 5 times in a row now. I think I got some good notes. And he replied with something like, dude, I can't do this fucking Ace Ventura metal anymore. And I literally, like, my brain was shut off. And I'm like in a meeting, and I'm like, I can't think about fucking anything. Because all I see is Ace Ventura with his head hanging out the car. And I was just totally done.
Yeah.
I would say Sweet Pea is almost more of like, because we talked about last time, like what is nu metal in terms of how it sounds. I think Sweet Pea is almost one of the most nu metal sounding songs that they have, just because like the guitar, because of the way that the drums and such are played and all that, and the mix is so different. But literally, the guitar could be like a Static X riff, and the way that the beat is really dancey. It's like a different kind of dancey than what you would expect out of like the Powerman 5000 realm of things. But like it's like a similar feeling to that if you like break it down and don't put the name on it. And then you have just the crushing blow of the middle phrasing of the song that with the breakdown and such. Orthodox actually covered that a couple of times, which is one of my favorite things we've ever done. Yeah, we would literally end a song and it would like end with like a tom, and it was like da 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 dun, and as soon as that last hit would hit, our bassist would go dun 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 dun, and then we'd start and we would play through the end of the song, but we played it way slower.
That's awesome.
But yeah, that's one of my favorite System songs.
And it's a hell of a way.
It's a good opener.
And it's a hell. Okay, like I was just gonna say it, Tim. It's a hell of a way to introduce any random listener to this is the band.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
This is what we do.
It has all the debut track.
Yep. Track number 2, titled "No," 2 minutes and 56 seconds. For me, the biggest note I have here is this is where the first time I picked up Serge's vocal range, because he can do the Eastern European stuff, the trilled R's, and then he can do the low growls, and then he hits the high notes. Because this is before Darren really becomes a shared vocalist in some of their later catalog. But that was the thing I took away from this. I'm like, this is not only a good song because it starts off with the nice the tom drumming, but he can go all over the fucking scale, which is kind of impressive. Because back then, nu metal wasn't talent. It was DJs and Jenkos.
Yeah, you can definitely tell the like Armenian influence. Just the moment he starts singing, he literally does I don't know the technical term for it, but it's like where you allow your vocal to like hit a note and then waver and like feel almost vibrato-ish in and out of like the flat of that note. I don't know what the technical term for it is, but he literally does that right off the start. And then again, more of the growling. And then the bridge where he's saying like on the other side, like that whole thing is like just him doing all sorts of different ranges again. And it's a really good intro with the drums, especially because like it's a fun basic drum intro that's just really high energy that just really sets the tone perfectly. And then the song itself, I'm pretty sure, is just about the uncertainty of why anyone ever commits suicide if they don't tell you why themselves. And that's kind of what I've always gathered from that, because the whole hook is you never think you know why. So
what do you think, Tim?
This song, after I listened to Toxicity, this sounds like a track from that. I not that it's a bad thing, because a lot of my favorite bands do this, but they have a lot of the same chords in their songs and the chord structures, and it kind of just sounds more of like a song that they already wrote to me, if that makes sense to you guys. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like Korn does it a lot. Not that it's a bad thing. They just use a lot of the same structures in both of these records.
Yeah.
But this song, to me, I really couldn't get into. Not, like I said, though, the guitar player, what's his name again?
Darren
Malakian.
The dude is a beast on guitar. I'll say that right now. And the drummer, I'll say this now, too. This band would not be what they are without that drummer, man. He's phenomenal.
I hate to admit that you're right, because he's a fucking idiot, but
yeah, he's sneaky good. He's one of those guys where if he didn't talk politics on the fucking internet, you would never think that he does help carry them in a big way, in a really big way.
Now, is there some kind of I'm sorry, is there some kind of like opposing views between the members? Is that what this whole thing is?
I don't know what Adam, from what I can gather, it's just none of them can check their egos long enough to do the next album, right? Like, it sounds like it's Serge is on one side and Darren's on the other, and then you have John in the background wearing a Trump hat, and then Chavo is off doing his thing. It just sounds
Chavo's got Red 22, which is his own personal cannabis brand.
I mean, it sounds he's got better. He's probably doing better than fucking Dan Bilzerian.
He's in a better place than all of us.
But it just sounds to me like they're one of those bands that they can't all just say, you know what, let's just fucking check it for a minute and go back and do an album and actually, you know, do another one that we think we've gotten there. And I'm of the opinion where if you have to force the album, don't do it. It's not going to be
especially
good.
For something like
and the fans
kind of
can
music.
feel it. Yeah.
Yeah, don't put out a Chinese democracy. You know,
they from what I've read, there's conflicting from what. So I think Serge only spoke on particular parts in an interview because he didn't want to let out that like John was incredibly conservative and kind of like really went the opposite way politically, because that in itself kind of dismounts a lot of the moral foundation the band stands upon. So from what I could tell in an interview was there was a disagreement on how the songs were written, how payout went, and how credits were done. But now that you've got John he says some insane things, like how he thinks that the Black Lives Matter movement is like I don't remember his exact quote, but he was basically saying he believes it's a propaganda, some sort of like left-wing propaganda or something like that. And I'm like, dude, it's like everyone brings up who owns the movement or founded the movement and stuff. I'm like, yeah, obviously somebody with money that doesn't exactly abide by it probably runs it, but like that doesn't change what it stands for. And he just said some insane things that are completely counter to what Serge Tankian believes politically. And, you know, kudos to Serge for standing up for John, because he's like, look, he's like, you know, on certain things we agree completely, on American politics we don't. And, you know, he just said, he's like, this guy's had my back and been in many, many fights, not literal fights, but like many, many fights with me for great causes. But I don't know. It's such a bummer to have a member of a band that is so politically extreme to suddenly be like, oh yeah, all these songs that we wrote and sang for the last 20 years. Yeah, I believe different things now.
And you know what? I'd be okay with that if they were all adults and said, you know what? You have grown and you've changed, and I may not necessarily agree with your current stance. Adults, right? We make good art together. Let's continue making art, because I'm sure if you said to him, dude, you're going to make a fucking check, just, you know, I'd be like, okay, well, I have made my stance. Everybody knows where I stand, but you know what? I like playing music with these guys. Let's do another one for the road because we really enjoy it. It's, you know, people get too touchy about things.
I think you'll see one eventually, though.
Eventually, but the point is, like you said, does it become a Chinese democracy? Right? By the time it comes out, you're like, really?
Also, it's hard to like write a true System of a Down record if you know somebody in the band is not on board with the words being sung.
Yeah, it's like what was it? I listened to an interview with Todd Jones where he talked about when he left Carry On because the singer was no longer straight edge. He's like, why are we doing a straight edge band if our singer isn't straight edge? He's going to get up and sing. Yeah. It's like that doesn't really make much sense. So I get it. I do get it. So next track, which I think was the lead-off single. Track number three, Sugar, which I don't know what you two think. I think it's kind of an odd choice. I mean, I wouldn't say it's an odd choice for a lead-off single because it's bizarre, because all their catalog is bizarre. So if you're going to dip your audience in what you do, it does make sense. I don't know. I think there might have been a better song to go off as a first single. There's some other songs I think on the album had their System of a Down pastiche, but weren't so necessarily so weird. If that makes any sense.
Sure. But you got to realize that as weird as that song is, it's probably not the weirdest on the album.
Not by far.
But that's another thing is if you're going to have both ends, you've got to like show something that shows both sides. And also there's not a single track on that album that is easier to remember.
True. I'll ask you this, Adam, getting ahead of the game. What do you think is the weirdest track on this album?
Let me look at my list here.
I could tell you mine while he's looking.
What's yours, Tim? What was your weirdest track?
Track 6, D Devil.
Really?
It's like got like a circus music intro on it. It's just really weird to me.
That's
I have that as my runner-up for the best song on the album. Shit.
Oh wow. They have weird, like their times of the tracks are so weird. It goes from like 3 to 1 to 6 to 2. It's like really weird.
Well,
song it does that a lot.
I did read an interview with Darren where what Toxicity through to Mesmerize, Hypnotize, the later albums, he became a much stronger songwriting presence. And he talks a lot about how he loves the Beatles. And one of the things he took away from the Beatles, not that he's writing Let It Bleed in a fucking System of a Down album, but he talks about how every song you get in, it's 3 minutes and you get out. So he used the Beatles as very influential to their song structure, and it shows up in Toxicity and it shows up in Mesmerize and Hypnotize, where those songs are all around the 3-minute mark and they're very cleanly structured. But I mean, I like this song. I think I have my notes here as it again, track sequencing matters. This is a 1-2-3 punch. Super heavy for nu metal, right? And then that breakdown. I mean, again, I have another here. I have a B with an exclamation point with every song with a breakdown, and that's one of those monster breakdowns that again, nu metal really wasn't doing at that point.
Yeah, I would say this is heavy, almost more so in like the aggression than it is the actual like how heavy the parts are, because the breakdown itself is like really bouncy and like punchy, but like in comparison to the other heavier parts on the album. Like in the next track, Suggestions probably has the heaviest part of the whole record, but it's not the heaviest song. I think it's just the way that it's executed and how like it's all dancey and playful and fun. And then all of a sudden it just takes this really weird, dark twist to like, I committed mass murder. Like, yeah. But to answer, I pulled up the lyric sheet so I could make sure I was on the right song. Cause I get 10 through 12 confused, but Darts, I think, is the weirdest song.
That's what I had as the most insane song of the album. And it foreshadows, they do, and I have a note here from one of the songs on Toxicity, they do some weird stuff. They did the baseball song on Mesmerize, right? Like they, at least once an album, they go way off into left field. And you're like, what the fuck? Yeah. It kind of works. It's just a little bit off kilter.
The weird song on Mesmerize isn't even the baseball song. I would say it's, well, no. I guess weird in context is probably the baseball song. I think the craziest song on that album is Violent Pornography,
I would agree with that.
Like I'm on the song.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But for me, the baseball song is completely incongruent because you have a political, active nu metal band singing about like Field of Dreams. Like, you know what I mean?
You know what that's about, right? You know what caused that song to happen? Darren played a celebrity softball game at Dodger Stadium, and
Yeah,
he
he's
said it
a
was weird as
sports nut.
shit.
Right, Adam?
Yeah,
he's a sports
huge,
nut?
Yeah, he's a huge
Yeah.
sports nut. That's why I have a Dodgers System of a Down jersey and 2 different System of a Down hockey jerseys. It's because Darren's a big like sports guy, but he played from what I read, he played a celebrity softball game at Dodger Stadium, and it was so weird because he was like, it's all these people that have been out of the spotlight trying to like one up each other on any platform they can get to like be the center of the stage. So like the whole thing about like old school Hollywood baseball, Jack Girardi's 10 feet tall. Like Jack Girardi was just there. Like it was
definitely weird. Definitely a weird one.
A very weird song, but
what did you have for notes, Tim, for Sugar?
You really want to know?
Yeah.
I think it's the worst song on this record. It's so I can't take it.
Okay. Worst song, or it just gets on your nerves?
I think it just gets on my nerves. Yeah.
I think it gets on your nerves.
Yeah.
So I bet you walk around going "sugar" to yourself after you.
No,
listen to it.
I
That
did
drives
not.
you nuts.
No.
It wasn't stuck in your head at all.
No.
You didn't one time hear it afterwards.
No, I had to put on some disgusting death metal just to get it out of my brain, like just how terrible it was.
Oh my God.
Well, let me ask you this, Tim. Comparatively, what do you think is the best song on the album?
The next one.
Suggestions. Okay.
That's a really good song.
Yes, track 4, 2 minutes 45 seconds. I have here the Middle Eastern sitar / mandolin opening is what really catches your ear.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a nice hopping beat to it, like on the bouncing off the balls of your feet, and it starts out a nice song, and then it gets super heavy.
Yeah, it's very heavy.
Yeah.
And there's really
not to jump. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say it's crazy because that song really only has 3 phrases technically. It's like the opening. Well, you have the intro with the different instruments and such, but then you have the bouncy bass verse, the chorus, and then you have the verse, and then you have the chorus again, and then you have the post-chorus, which is just an alteration of it, and then you have back to the intro, and then you have what I think is the heaviest part of the entire album, because it is after you have the sitar mandolin, and then it just crashes on you. Yeah,
they crank the distortion to 11, and it's like that when he punches in at that point, you're like, shit, like that's a real chunky riff. And I think you're right, Adam. It's the comparison of the mandolin sound to that real distorted amps in your face sort of blasting. Yeah.
When I saw them, in May of last year. It was actually May 17th because it was the 14 years of Mesmerize was that day. And it was at Sonic Temple Fest. And they did like their usual set list. And then towards the end of it, they did almost like a medley of like 4 songs off the self-titled, where they didn't play the full song of everything, but like they would play the important parts. And they played all of Suggestions. And I was just so amped and happy to just be seeing this band at this point that I forgot that part was coming. And all of a sudden it goes to him playing that. And I literally was like, smiles. I literally felt my face go. I mean, I was freaking the fuck out when they played that song. Like, it was unreal.
Adam, I will say that I personally think that's a sign of a good live band when they do that medley where they daisy chain together a couple of songs from their catalog. Metallica does it whenever they tour. They daisy chain stuff together.
Like 150 songs.
One of the most, I gotta admit, one of the most impressive times I've ever seen a medley. I saw Prince in the Round in Philly.
Oh.
And he did an acoustic of Purple Rain. It was like Raspberry Beret, Purple Rain, 1999. Like, he literally played an acoustic melody, and he was fucking perfect. And I wasn't even a huge Prince fan. The wife wanted to go. And I just sat there with my mouth on the floor like he was, as a musician. Talk about someone who, a musician's musician, right? This 5-foot guy. And he was just amazing.
Yeah. I mean, legend. That's all you can say about it.
So this was your favorite song, huh, Tim, on the album?
Actually, no. I read that wrong. The next, I'm sorry about
Spiders?
Spiders?
Yeah.
Really?
I think that this is probably the best song on the record. Yeah.
So I have a note here. Spiders, track number 5, 3 minutes 37 seconds. My note here is hard pass, fam. Foreshadows later catalog, but not for me.
You saying that makes me have to look at lyrics so I can remember exactly how the song goes, because this is the one album where I don't know all the songs like tidally that well, because they don't really have as much to do with the song as like the later ones do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, on suggestions,
Spiders.
I have one of the better songs on the record.
Okay,
I read past it by accident. My bad.
Yeah, Spiders is the one with the slow bass guitar intro. Serge is actually singing. He hits some sustained notes.
So you have your favorite song. Well, no, I'm not, because you don't like the craziness. So of course you're gonna like the ballad.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's
you
why
nailed
it is.
right there. You nailed it. It's some of the songs are just too out there for me. Like I think
put
what
on
it
crazy
is,
death metal, but they're too out there.
I think what it is, and this is going to sound weird, especially to Jay. Jay will send me a lot of tech death, and I'm like, I just can't do that. All that fretboard gymnast, like it's just too much. Like you don't need to go to the 22nd fret every time. Yeah. Like I need pounding groove, man. You know what I mean? And System has a lot of that. They just go too much into the Ace Ventura stuff for me.
I have disclaimer for Adam, for everyone listening. I have given up trying to figure out Tim's tastes. Earlier this
they're
week,
bad, as I can tell you.
Earlier this week, he told me that he loves the new Eco Strike album. And I'm not saying it's bad, but I was not, when I listened to that album, I did not picture Tim Anderson Jr. shaking his head to it. And I'm like, Tim, really? You like this? He's like, dude, it's fucking great. What are you talking about? I'm like,
I love that band, man.
Hot take. I wasn't expecting that one. No, I like it. The album is great. If you like Strife, you'll like Eco Strike. Well, but it was not something that I would picture you really enjoying.
And I think Adam will appreciate this part too. And one of the reasons I like Eco Strike is the drumming, because it's one of the bands that I'll put on the record and I'll drum through all the tracks with it. And it's just so fucking tight, like the drumming on it. And it's really good record, man. That's a great band. I mean, them dudes are in so many other bands too that are all great. That whole Florida scene's great, man.
Yeah.
But like I said, Adam's a drummer. He knows. I mean, I play drums, not as good as anybody. I'm just saying I can play drums, but like today I was drumming to it just to get warmed up, and I'm like, see, this is why I love this band, because it's just I don't know, they're just the way they do it.
If you ever want to really test your rudiments and how well you know like your count, as well as like how like a totally different groove that feels really good, play through Mesmerize.
Okay. I will,
that is
actually.
One of the most specifically, what song is it? I want to say it's there's a crazy groove part, and it's in Radio Video, I'm pretty sure.
I'd have written down.
It'll come to me later, but
that's the song where they slow down, right? Boom, boom,
they have like a boom part. Yeah, it's like really weird. But what is? No, it's Revenja. Sorry, it's Revenja. It's the third track, and it has the coolest like constantly opening and closing hi-hat mixed with a like bouncing bell riff, all while hitting a snare and kick over the verse. And then the rest of the song like is like kick ass too. So yeah,
I'll definitely
that is a challenging record to play drums to.
Yeah, I'll definitely go through it. I have no problems with that.
All right,
I've been doing. See, my problem is trying to do too many blast beats, and I'm just trying to get. I'm trying to get my blast beat down. It's like one of the only things I can't keep up on. So that's what I've been working on.
So, I don't want to send us down another rabbit hole. But speaking of blast beats, Tim, look up the drummer from the band Die Choking from Philly.
Yeah,
he does single foot blasts, and it is like one of those things where you stop and you're like, "Holy shit!" Like he is moving at warp speed. Back to the album. Track 6, I think this is 1 minute and 43 seconds, The Devil, or Devil, no matter how you say it. I have this as the second best track on the album. I really love that polka-ish almost intro. I think that's fucking great. And this is the song where, keep me honest, Adam, this is the song where Serge does like almost those high-pitched falsetto in the chorus. Yeah. Awesome.
That's my note to why I don't like this song at all.
I'm trying to see
Adam is gonna hate me after this.
I'm trying to see if he even. I don't think he even says anything when he does that.
No, I don't think he does either. He just makes noises.
Take themselves, take me down there, photographic realize. The devil is so lovely. No, he literally doesn't. It's just fucking weird.
Yeah. That box set you has every lyric in it?
CD inserts.
Oh, no. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was about to say, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's not like a book, but...
Yeah, I was going to say, that's pretty cool if it was.
It's like a little box set that's got, like, each record in its own little cardboard thing.
Okay. Cool.
Oh, I would get that.
And, but they all have the CD inserts, and I was like, I'm going to break this out so I can be sure I don't say something stupid on, live television.
Deftones needs to put one of them out.
Yeah, but it would be like 9 inches thick and it'd be $300.
Yeah, I think it only works because they're only 5.
Yeah. After Devil, we have track number 7, Soil, 3 minutes 26 seconds. My notes here was the intro drum beat and the actual backbone of the song is actually a modified amen break. If you know any drumming, right? It's the amen break, but it's just they leave out a note. And I also see here the thing that stood out for me is Darren's solos. This is the first real like guitar solos that caught my ear on the album, and they have an almost bluesy feel to them. And that's where I started to realize that this dude can play. Like he's not just a crunchy open notes and chunked out fucking pitch chords, drop tune chords. He actually knows his way around a fretboard.
Yeah, this is not a bad track at all. I didn't mind this one at all.
This song is hard. I mean, it's literally about. So speculating here. Context clues. The song is called Soil. Band is disbanded, and this song is clearly about somebody killing themselves. And I think it's because of other people's influence, from what I can read. But also has probably my favorite line off the album. Just don't you realize that evil lives in the motherfucking skin? Like that is, yeah, I know. And
when his lyrics make kind of sense, they really are moving. So, Adam, off the top of your head, who do you think is a better lyricist, Serge or Keith Buckley?
Oh my God.
Let's put it this way: if you had to pick one to co-write the next Orthodox album with you, and it was either or, you get to pick. Who would you pick?
Oh my God, man, you're killing me.
I love it. He literally
so
looks
out
right now.
Well, I've just never had that thought because, like, they're so similar, but it's totally different execution. Where, like, I feel like Serge is a much more eccentric, extravagant lyricist with the words he chooses and the metaphors he decides to use, whereas Keith Buckley is just as equally crazy and metaphoric, but it's so much more like raw and gross. Like the song I'm joining a cult. No, I didn't want to join your stupid cult anyways. He says cut out my head, take out my brain, fill me with song. All I know is it says, damn it, I can't remember what it says. It's like this long, like multiple word, like dashed together for shit-eating grin. And it's like, I'm just like, oh, dude, how do you even think? And I literally tried to read his new book, and it's so just like I got through like 2 chapters and I was like, dude, I don't even know where I am. I couldn't finish it. It's not to say that it's badly written. I literally haven't read enough in the last few years for my brain to conceptualize something without a picture at that level. So like,
you make an interesting comparison though. Like when you compare the two, my first thought was, if I'm going to compare Keith Buckley to Serge, Keith Buckley is in the Chuck Palahniuk vein, right? Because it's very visceral, it's very raw, it's very, exactly where it's coming from, and it's going to put you in a place that you're not necessarily happy being in. Whereas Serge is more of the, not to sound all pretentious and shit, but he's more of the Bret Easton Ellis, like American Psycho, Less Than Zero, where it is more artistic, and a little bit more abstract, and it takes a bit to take hold. Like you got to get in it a bit for that whole, I guess, milieu or whatever, pastiche, whatever word I'm looking for here, to set in.
Well, you can literally look at the aesthetics of like, look at how Serge Tankian dressed for Elect the Dead. Full suit, tuxedo, top hat, coat, Walker cane. And so if that's Serge Tankian's lyrics is that outfit, then Keith Buckley is just the vest with jeans and boots. So they can both go to the same party, but it's still a very different take on how they're showing up.
What you have for this song, Tim? Anything?
Which one is it?
Soil.
Yeah. I thought this was a decent track.
So far, you've only disliked one.
It's not. It's just the vocals, man. They just kill it for me.
Replace Serge Tankian with Lynn Strait. We'll see what happens. Track number 8.
War.
2 minutes 40 seconds. War. This is my best song on the album. The single note riffing stands out in your ears, and we have again Serge doing death metal growls perfectly. Like I think this is one of 2 songs on the album that is specifically about conflict and the Armenian genocide.
Mm-hmm. It's also, that song is really cool because it gets to that part where they do the of war, we don't speak anymore of war. If you listen in the background, it literally has like a condensed with like a chorus effect over him just saying war, 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 making his voice like a siren behind him, saying the word war and war over and over and over again. And the song itself is just like, the way that it's worded is so well put. It says, the righteous man needs a reason to kill man. History teaches us so. So just like, it's just breaking down war for what it is without any kind of glamour or reason. And it's like, it makes you kind of think like how fucked up that whole thing is. It's like, oh, we can kill these people, as we will fight the heathens, so long as we have a reason to call them that.
Yep. Which
There's
is
definitely cool riffs in this one, though, like you guys were saying.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I liked when I went back and read through the lyrics, like I liked it because it made me think of, like you said, we will fight the heathens as long as we call it so. Like that makes me think of like Howard Bloom and some of the stuff he's done with the Lucifer principle, where in different cultures, aggression is okay as long as you're projecting your aggression against someone who's viewed as the other. So if you're aggressive against your own tribe, it's verboten. But if you're aggressive against a different tribe that's competing against you, well, then it's okay. It's fine. It's not them. It's not us. It's them, which is an interesting human overlay to think about. Next, we have track number 9. It's the longest track in the album, 6 minutes and 16 seconds, Mind. What do you have here, Tim?
I just wrote just no. I couldn't do it. Can't do it.
I have notes that it's a very quiet intro, which then swings drastically in the other direction. And I also have a note here with a smiley face, Chino noises, because I think he makes some Deftones noises at some point, like he makes the Chino like strangled kitten noises.
Don't you talk about Chino?
This is the one song that I think has some filler to it. I don't think they had that intro to begin with. Because the song picks up like the intro could have been like, this could have been track 10 and the intro was track 9. And it's just such a different swing because it's so, I don't know. It's not, I don't dislike it, but if I'm going to skip a song on this one, it's probably.
It's going to be this one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that makes me feel better than when I wrote just no. So it makes more sense now.
And like, because it's literally, the whole thing is look at each other like over and over and over again. And then it just, with no fade of anything, it's just bum, bum, bum. And then the riff is really hard.
Which
there's just some weird like scared horse thing.
And you're right, Adam, because they're not a band that typically does filler. I mean, they're prolific when it comes to writing songs. And we're going to get into that when we talk about, all the bazillion songs they wrote for Toxicity, right? They're not one of those bands where you can be like, shit, that was just a filler to get them to 10 tracks. So it is kind of weird that very long dichotomy that they lay out.
Yeah, but the thing is it's a 13-track album. And
which is long.
If you write filler, filler is the kind of thing you hear for like when bands show up to the studio and have 8 songs written and need 10. But if you have 13 songs and there's not really any part, and maybe even if this was like track 7, where ideally it's when you flip the record over, I could understand the intro being there. It's such a weirdly placed, especially to come out of War, which is so
heavy
huge.
And aggressive. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they were just trying to add some, which I mean, in itself, maybe they were trying to add that intro so that way when it does kick in with the actual song, it's just that much harder.
Could be.
I don't know. It's one of those things where I could do without it. I don't mind it, but I think you could have just easily gone right into the part that we're all waiting for.
Right. You'll listen to it, but you're not necessarily going to seek out that track.
And it's also like, I think the only reason that it works is because as it fades, they make the song fade out too. And then Serge repeats to look at each other over and over again. So it makes me wonder if he had lyrics written and was like, I want to keep this in here because of what ties it together, but I needed to have these parts or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it's possible. Really possible. So moving ahead from track number 9, we have track number 10, Peephole, 4 minutes and 4 seconds. I really like this track because it's basically a waltz, right? Like you could see people waltzing around on a dance floor in big dresses or whatever. And I like how it's put together. And I wrote that it's a waltz that's completely unexpected yet fits the rest of the album in context and tone. And I think that's probably, it's weird, but if the whole album is weird, well, where do you define the line and say, well, that's too weird? I really liked it. What did you think, Tim?
I can't do this one either. It does have very, very good heavy riffing in it. This one I just kind of turned off and went to the next one. It's my perspective on this band is going to be a lot different when we get to Toxicity. I'll just tell you that right now.
What did you think, Adam?
Okay.
Peephole.
The Don't You Ever Get Stuck in the Sky, I think it's a little too repetitive for me.
Okay.
It's a great line, but it feels like they got a little too hung up and put a little too much stock into a very basic rhyme. Sky, high. It doesn't. It's also like you've got Serge doing so much more over parts that are harder to articulate and execute a more intricate vocal pattern. So I feel like having open chords like that, you could have just easily just flexed on it and done some crazy things, but there's not even a harmony.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's definitely
not my
weird
favorite,
one.
but
It's a weird one. So we'll skip ahead to track number 11, 1 minute and 49 seconds, the second shortest song on the album, Hubert. What did you think, Tim?
Oh, I know he hates this one.
Yeah,
This is the one with the really weird guitar intro.
I can't stand this one.
See, I like this one. I have my notes here are urgent and works. However, double bass run during the chorus would have made it that much heavier. Now, I don't think I have never heard I've never heard what was Hypnotized was first or Mesmerized was first.
Mesmerized.
I have never heard Hypnotized. Does he ever do double bass, John?
You've never heard Hypnotized?
No, Adam. I've never heard the second album.
It'll be 15 years old in 3 months.
I've never heard it. I've honestly,
my favorite System of a Down song on it.
I have never heard it. I will look into it, but I have never heard it.
You've been listening to System of a Down for like the most you ever have in 3 weeks.
So wait a minute.
You're now hosting a podcast.
Yeah, but
specifically on this band, and
dude,
you haven't listened to the last thing they put out.
I did fucking steal this album, and I did fucking Mesmerize. So you're saying 15 years? 15 years is this year, right? Which means 2005. So in 2005, I was listening to shit. It was way more metalcore. I guess it's 2005 is when As I Lay Dying comes out. It's when Killswitch starts getting big. But truth be told, I checked out of music from 2006 to 2010. I settled down with the missus and we bought a house and I changed careers and I was not in the space to check out music and I totally got lost. Also, this is when Job for a Cowboy started to become a thing. Muir, Whitechapel, all that stuff that I really was, what's the other one? Carnifex, all the stuff I really wasn't into was the thing. So I kind of just checked myself out of the music scene. So I'm going to take a mulligan on this one, but I will listen to it before the next time we chat.
You still had 10 years from then, Jay.
What the fuck, man?
I
got to keep up.
That's 3,000 days.
And the more I talk, I'm making it worse.
He does.
That's what I don't get. If you listen to Mesmerize, that came out the same year.
I thought they came out at the same day.
No,
they were recorded in the same session, and then they decided instead of having a 24-track album, they split it into 2 records.
Okay.
And they're one of like 3 or 4 artists to have 2 #1 releases in the same year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I think one of the other artists is DMX, which is rather amusing in its own right.
Which is sick. Yeah.
Yeah. So
DMX rolls.
Yeah, he does. I got a funny story we'll tell when we're off air. So track number 12, coming close to closing out the album, Darts. 2 minutes, 43 seconds. By far the weirdest song on the album.
It's got a cool opening riff.
It's just weird. My whole note is, it's so weird it works, almost schizophrenic.
Yeah, it was. I have in my notes, it's definitely a weird track. I didn't mind this one too much, though. I love the opening riff in it. It's good. That's
you
good
don't
stuff
like
right
the Ace Ventura stuff, but then Serge literally acts like the Mask. Like
no. I was just saying the riffing.
Oh, I thought you were talking about like the weird vocal.
No. No, just the riffing in this one.
And
you're gonna be surprised on Toxicity.
And this song ends with the dun 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 dun, like the stompy rhythm, right? Is that how this song ends? Jun, 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 right? It's a couple of staccato notes.
I don't think so. I think you're thinking of Pluck, which is next.
Yes, I am. Tim, we need to find out a way to pipe audio into the Zoom feed so we can listen. We can all listen while we're fucking talking.
I was literally going to talk to you guys about that when we're done. So we will get into that.
So if Darts, we all universally agree, is the weirdest song on the album. Let's go to the last song on the album, Pluck. 3 minutes, 37 seconds. Again, this is the song overtly about the Armenian genocide. I think this is one of the top 3 songs on the album. It's heavy, but it has a message. And that message where Serge's lyrics can typically be abstract. This is one of the least, I have a note here, this is one of the least abstract songs on the album.
This one I didn't really care for.
At this point, you were burnt out. Too much Ace Ventura, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
What are your thoughts?
As a whole for this record, I'll just say this before we get to the next one. As a whole, this is a record I won't listen to ever again.
Fair enough. What did you think, Adam?
I love this song. You can, on Orthodox's new record, we deliberately ripped this song off, hard. The song "Why Are You Here"? Listen to Pluck and then listen to that, and it's not the exact same riff or anything, but you can tell what I was thinking, 100%. Okay. But this song, like you said, is very much so straightforward about that. And there's even, I'm looking, this is the first time I've ever like sat down and read this insert. There is a highlighted parenthetical that's not even spoken on the record. It's in bold text. It says politically lying, unholy, cowardly killers. And that's before the song even starts. I'm pretty sure the first thing you hear is the elimination, and that's like the first thing you hear from him. So unless I'm just completely forgetting a different vocal take before it, but I don't think I am.
No, you're not.
That's not even in the song. It's just he just put it there. So yeah, starting out a song with that is very much gosh, it's as I'm reading
and the guitar almost rings, if I remember correctly, right? There's like an almost weird sort of echo as he's doing that single note intro.
Mm-hmm.
Tim, you skipped this one? You said this was a hard pass for you?
Yes.
It literally, it says, die, walk down, a whole race genocide, taking away all our pride, a whole race genocide. Like, it's just very much about that.
In your face. Yeah. One of the rare songs where he says what he thinks and thinks what he says. It's
crazy to me that it's so wild to me as an American, that people deny genocides to begin with. Like, that's unreal. But then B, that before System of a Down, I'd never heard of the Armenian genocide. It literally took me looking into what they meant because I was never educated on it. That's insane to me. Absolutely fucking bananas.
And it's still not acknowledged by most major first world political parties around the world. It's just it's one of those things they don't want to talk about, which is they're ridiculous. All worried about Turkey. So I think, again, it's one of the best songs in the album. This actually rounds out the album. The Japanese edition had 2 additional songs. The first song was Marmalade, which actually appeared on the Strangeland soundtrack, which I think is, again, one of their better songs. And I think, Adam, I'm curious to hear your thoughts, but this also portends the prolific writing of these guys, where they just can bang out song after song after song after song. And they're not, for every one that's trash, there's 3 or 4 that's actual quality.
Marmalade, if I'm not mistaken, was actually on their demos too.
I think so, yes.
It was on one of the 3 demos that they released before they ever went in, which might be why it didn't make the actual cut when they did the full recording. That song is another one where it's a great song. It's a very catchy song. Almost so like authentically catchy that I feel like maybe that's also why it didn't make it, because they kind of have we're going to make you repeat this to yourself, but you have no idea why. And that song is very much like has a hook and it's very easy to catch on to. So that could be a reason behind it, but.
And I don't think I've ever heard it, Adam. Did you hear the second song that's on the Japanese edition, Storaged?
I know I've heard it, but I had to find some shitty YouTube MP3 to hear it.
I don't even remember it. I don't even remember.
Yeah, I don't have any real recollection of it. I don't think I was that enthused.
All right. So that rounds us out with the first album. Not too bad. I think we can agree that there's a lot of seeds planted for what shows up on Toxicity. There are some weird moments. There are some great moments. And however, for the most part, Tim will never listen to it again. I think I might add this back into the rotation along with the last EP that Limp Bizkit recorded with Ross Robinson, which I still stand by is fucking great. One of the things we didn't talk about with this album, one of the reasons it sounds the way it does, Dave Sardi did the mixing.
Oh shit. Okay.
You'll remember him. He was in Bark Market. He mixed the favorite album that he ever mixed for me is VOD's Imprint, which is a fucking monster.
Great.
And it's a monster. But yeah, that I think between Rick Rubin producing it and then you have Dave Sardi mixing it, I think that really definitely contributed to the heaviness of this album. Any final thoughts?
It's interesting because you can almost I only listened to the band after the next few records were released, so I was able to back my way into that album as opposed to hearing that and going forward.
Okay.
But if you're starting listening to System of a Down and this is where you start, just strap in because it's a trip. That's like the best way to put it. This is a very reasonable and almost expected like patient zero for what became their discography.
So let me ask you this, Adam. So I had the inverse experience. I heard these guys from day one going forward. What was the album that you first heard of them? Was it Toxicity? Okay. So
because
when you went
Shimmy
back,
being on Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
It all goes back to Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
Mm-hmm.
When you went back to that self-titled album after working your way through Toxicity, what do you remember? What your initial thoughts was? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Was it too weird? Did it work?
There were songs that I liked. It was very hard for me to get into because I was kind of in that stage where like if it didn't sound that great, I wasn't all that amped on it. And like recording quality wise from the last two albums, which were the ones I listened to the most first, it's backpedaling by far. Like it's nowhere near the production quality. Granted, it came out years beforehand and such. The budgets weren't near as big, but it was a little hard for me to get into for that reason, on top of it is so strange. So to have that weird execution musically, vocally, everything just being so on a different level of just crazy, and then it not being produced to the level of most of the music I was hearing, it was kind of hard for me to get into at first. But I've grown to really appreciate it, especially as becoming like an artist myself and, you know, writing music and trying to even like encompass any kind of inspiration I can draw from these guys to like figure out and wrap my brain around how they wrote and played the way they did is still baffling. So
wild. That's wild. I want to lead us into Toxicity, but first, Tim, you have to give me 30 seconds because I have to go to the beer because I don't have the cooler.
I was just going to say, yeah, I'm going to take a piss real quick.
Yeah, let's break and we'll come back in 30 seconds.
Well, is it?
All right.